fairest of them all.
Ravenna is the evil queen, played by Charlize Theron.
The queen is death. She has no heart.
Ravenna's mission really is to live within the greatest means of power.
She's the darkness within us all.
You are the fairest, but there is another destined to surpass you. Snow White.
Bring me the king's daughter. What does she want from me? You beating heart.
Ravenna and Snow White are bound in a way.
I should have killed her when she was a child.
Snow White's escaped. The Queen promises the huntsman something very valuable if he sets off on the mission to capture Snow White.
Hunt her down.
And if I refuse?
To his knees.
As an outsider, I see her as all of the things that the audience will.
Such beauty. But how strong is your heart?
But as an insider playing her, I had to not think about those things.
She's perfect to play the queen because she's got this presence.
She has this icy cold kind of evil stare that she throws at you.
She can level you.
You know, I wouldn't want to fight her.
When you come across a part like that, you take advantage of it. I think this film, with how epic it is, it's going to be a feast for their eyes.
Mirror, mirror on the wall. Who is fairest of them all?
The director, Rupert, conjured up visuals that absolutely transported you somewhere else, and it wasn't at all what I expected.
The attention to detail in every set was absolutely sensational.
Because he's done hundreds of commercials on a large scale. Rupert knows how to tell such a vivid story and with just such great imagery.
Everything that we're shooting is either a real location or we're building immense sets.
It kind of takes your breath away every time you turn up to work.
Rupert is a very visual guy. He captures almost every kind of landscape. We go through the dark forest, the sanctuary, the kingdom in its Camelot stage of richness, and the kingdom in its disintegration.
Chatting away, guys, enjoy yourselves, here we go!
During Magnus's reign, life was amazing. There was a sense of peace, and so our dressing really reflects that. Everything is very colorful, and there was a lot happening. When Ravenna comes along, this ash has just covered the world. Her lands are burnt.
The Queen really symbolizes death, and Snow White is the beating heart of life.
There is a grittiness here, and it's a grittiness that strikes me as profoundly medieval.
This is an incredible opportunity to create a world that people haven't seen before.
Once the lights go off, we all want to go into a different world.
Lips red as blood, hair black as night. Bring me your heart, my dear Snow White.
On Snow White and the Huntsman, our costumes were designed by three-time Oscar winner Colleen Atwood. Colleen is a true artist, and I was amazed by what she created for us.
Colleen Atwood, costume designer for Snow White and the Huntsman. The first character that I encountered on the film was Kristen Stewart, who's playing Snow White. We didn't want her to be sort of a puffball little Snow White. We wanted her to be sort of a badass Snow White, like someone who was tough, who'd been through who'd had a journey already at a very young age. We wanted to sort of have a fairy tale quality to it without it being all fairy-like. So we decided to make it out of a suede with stitch detail and a little bit of metal on it to reflect that she was maybe a little bit royal, but not blinged out. The costume had to run for a long time through the story, so we wanted it to be able to change. I underdressed it with leather pants and boots that she could run in and do all the things that she had to do in the film, because there's a lot of action in the film. As she goes through the woods, her dress undergoes different changes. It starts as a long dress and overdress and then gets ripped away, so you see the leather leggings underneath and a shorter top, and that's mainly what she wears for the movie. At the end of the movie, she becomes sort of a heroine to the People's Army, and at that point, to prepare for a battle, we made her a hand-sculpted custom suit of armor that she wears for this sequence of the film. The next character that I encountered was Ravenna, the evil queen. Her crown was an important part of her character. It's iconic, but also it's totally a Romanesque kind of design. A lot of her costume elements were reflecting death. There's a collar made of stag beetle horns. There's actually a dress made of beetle wings in her wardrobe. There is a wedding dress for her, which is at the beginning of the movie, that has a huge collar made out of really fine, almost skeletal type bones. She also has a cape made of cock feather that have been carved and sculpted into a shape on a cape. I call it her transforming cape because she becomes birds when she wears it. So all in all, she's quite the haute couture sort of queen, but with a sort of aged, kind of rotting edge to her. The next character that I encountered was Chris Hemsworth, who is our lovely huntsman. Everything that he wears in the film, he carries on his back, his weaponry, everything. So we designed it all to work in that way. He has different variations of it, coat on, coat off, but it's basically that. And it's all made out of real materials that you could find in the woods, like different kinds of buffalo leather and all kinds of leather sewn together by hand, all handmade, a rough woven, hand-woven linen shirt fabric. He was definitely sort of the organic character of the story. With the design of this film, I had two armies. I had a shadow army, and they were a very high concept, sort of off the beaten path sort of army, non-classic. It was really fun to get to do an army that sort of you hadn't done before, that nobody's seen before. We made over 350 costumes for them, and that process, along with the Silver Army, which you see on King Magnus and his people, and also on Snow White, began in January, way before pre-production started on the film in other areas. To do this kind of work, you start with a lot of concept work and then a sculpt and a mold. So that process is almost a 4-month process before you have a costume. So we had to begin these guys even before we had a final script. We knew they were going to be in there. I think they look pretty scary when you see all 1,000 of them coming at you in the movie. I've made over 1,000 costumes for this film, including 2 armies. It's been an incredible undertaking, and collaborating with these 3 main actors, this has been an amazing experience for me.